All right, if you would have a seat, please.
Sadly today, mum is not always the same person as mother. It used to be that they were one and the same, but the difference between the two titles can be quite readily distinguished. Mother is the person who gives life to a child. Mum is the person who gives her life to raising a child. A person who willingly accepts the burdens, responsibilities, heartbreaks and joys of raising a child. In comparison to being a mum, it takes very little to be a mother. It takes only 9 months to become a mother. Conversely, to be a mum takes a life commitment to hard work, worry and the giving of oneself for the good of a child. Mum shares a child's joys, worries, fears, successes and disappointments. Mum often has to give up parts of her own dreams, needs and wants for the welfare of the child she is raising. She does this out of love for the child. Women who are blessed with the gift of being a mum should take the responsibility seriously. Mums have a unique and crucial role in the lives of their children. Being a mum is not a chore or an unpleasant task. The child is not a burden. Just as a mum feeds and cares for a child during infancy, some mums also play an ongoing role in the lives of their children, whether they are adolescents, teenagers, young adults, or even adults with children of their own. While the role of the mum must change and develop, the love, care, nurturing and encouragement a mum gives should never cease. Our grandson was precious to us. He should have also been precious to Jordan. She was, as we thought, his mum. The first and last line of defence, his main protector. But she selfishly, repeatedly put Caius back in harm's way, blaming his injuries on a whole host of fabricated untruths to protect and keep her boyfriend. As a family, we are disgusted, upset and disappointed at her actions, which have ultimately left us all heartbroken. She completely broke our trust. But we can't help thinking that the most heartbroken was Caius, a 2.5-year-old baby, not understanding why his mum was not protecting him from the beatings, not understanding why his cries for help were not heard, not understanding why his mum was not stopping the hurt and pain, not understanding why she kept putting him back in harm's way, not only once or twice, but again and again and again. This was a situation horrific for an adult to comprehend, let alone for a 2.5-year-old baby's comprehension. What must have been going through his head at the time is unfathomable. He must have felt so scared and alone, we can only imagine. The one person that he should have been able to look for protection failed him, all because of selfish intent. We hope that it's something his mother will contemplate for the rest of her days. There is nothing that can be said that can justify her selfish actions. There is nothing that can be done to bring Caius back. The gift of being a mum was squandered on someone that ultimately was content on just being a person who gave life to a child. Sleep in peace, little man. The suffering is ended and no one can hurt you again.
Do I have any other victims who would like to address the court here? Here's none. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report in this case. There was a COBS evaluation conducted here where this court committed that it was sentenced within guidelines. Guideline scoring in this case is 0 to 9 months. This case with the charge carries a maximum prison sentence of 24 months, 2 years in state prison. I said this before. This now becomes the 4th time I've lived your son's death. And actually, it's more because of all the time that I put in to reviewing all of these items. In fact, what I spent all of last night doing was going through the preliminary examination transcript because I still cannot wrap my head around this offense. I cannot. I often say corny things or relate to corny things in life, but, you know, in this case, these things were said before, but it really came out to the forefront when Sarah Palin ran for office. And this was the concept about the grizzly bear mama. You know, and a lot of people attribute this to her. And so exactly what is it? It's that a mother would do anything to protect her children. And her take on that, she was going to go to Washington to protect the children there. In fact, one thing that I ever read, it says it calls America's women to a sisterhood of grizzlies because moms kind of just know when there's something wrong. I asked myself throughout this case, where was that mother here? Where was that mother here? I went through Dr. Lavity's testimony in the preliminary examination transcript. These are the things that are beyond the pale, and I'm not going to go through everything that I went through at Mr. Scheer's sentencing or that I went through in the various plea-taking processes here, because everybody can obtain those or listen, I guess, somehow acquire what was said and determine what the court alludes to, but I rely on several of those statements here. In the medical examiner's own testimony, she refers to events that she's informed while she's conducting her post-mortem. She's told that Caius vomits and then he passes out. When this basically happens, medical treatment is not necessarily sought for because this defendant is afraid people would think that she injured him. And these come right out of the preliminary examination transcript. 2 weeks prior to that, Caius falls downstairs. His injuries are described as anterior and posterior compression fractures to his pelvis. No treatment is sought because this defendant did not want people to think he was being abused. The doctor testifies about bruising, biting, anemia is to blame, the defendant thinks, but again, there is no treatment sought because she did not want to be accused of abusing him. She goes back to a prior physician who said, give Caius iron supplements. We have a rupture of Caius' scrotum. She takes Caius to see her father, a doctor. But again, there's no treatment. There is the application of a salve. It's often been said here, I think, society failed this young man tremendously. A lot of people failed this young man. There should have been reporting here. Dr. Lavity described the injuries in this case. Bruising on legs, arms, buttocks, hip, groin, thigh, knees, face. Bruising of the lungs. How do you get bruising of the lungs? Dr. opined we usually see these through automobile accidents or severe trauma inflicted to the body. Bruising to the bowels. Pelvic fractures, internal head, brain injuries. Swelling so deep into the brain that I think she even opined it surprised her. This doctor testified there were over 55 injuries of varying ages to this child. Over 55 injuries to this child. Ages to this child. Over 55 injuries to this child. In this court's mind, it cannot be argued that there was not recognition on the part of this defendant that injuries were being inflicted upon Caius. And this is why this preliminary examination transcript became so very important to me. On page 90 of volume 1 of the preliminary examination transcript, and this is the preliminary examination with Roger Shearer. This relates to the incident about Caius' scrotum swelling. And this is this defendant's very own testimony. He had some new bruising beginning, and then his crotch area was red and swollen. And how physically was he moving at that point? I could tell that that area was hurting him, and he wasn't walking very much or anything. And had he been able to walk okay prior to that incident? Yes. After that incident, did he have difficulty walking for some time? Yes. And how long did that last? What does this defendant testify to? I would say he never fully walked normal again. And this is April 20 of 2015. April 20. 9, 10, 11 days before the death of Caius. It is represented to the court that she is drawn into this abusive relationship with Mr. Shearer. I look at the preliminary examination transcript, and again, this is this defendant's testimony. April 22, in a text to Mr. Shearer. Defense counsel asked her, and you told him on the 22nd of April, you sent this text, quote, "I'm sorry, but I refuse to lose my soulmate over my kid taking time to get used to a new man," unquote. Right? Her answer? Yes. April 27, she sends a text to Mr. Shearer, reference to injuries that had occurred to the child, and this is very strange. On April 27, quote, "You're not going to just text me, mister." This is Miss Henry texting Mr. Shearer. Something like that. "I said he bruised his eye from me wrestling around and hitting him into the table on accident. I took full blame. I told everyone I haven't seen you in a long time." Unquote. Why do you vouch for somebody that is beating your child? This is pure recognition. She knew what was going on all this time. Nobody can persuade this court that she did not. She knew. Testimony was had that question was put to her, didn't you want your, and he's not even, I don't know if he's her ex-husband yet, but at least the father of Caius, did you want Michael Henry to take Caius more? Her answer, I told him that when he watched him, I would prefer him to watch him in his grandma's house where Mike was living. Okay, did you ever explain to Mike that you wanted him to take more of Caius so you could have more time with Roger? Answer, I never told him that specifically, but towards the end, when these accidents started happening, I didn't know what to do, and I did ask his dad if he could have him a little more often because I needed to figure out what was happening. all this time she knew what was going on with her child. I read the letters from all of the family members in this case, both on Miss Henry's part and both on the father's side, and that being Caius's father's side. Miss Henry's family would suggest to this court that Miss Henry is the most caring, loving mother in the world. She was to Caius. I tend to agree with the prosecutor, probably at some point before Mr. Scheer entered the picture. Yes, she was. And they even opined that they would entrust their very own children with her, even now. I have to say the facts of this case, however, belie that. I received a 3-page psychiatric letter submitted on behalf of this defendant that suggests that she was an abused person. She was blamed by both her husband and Mr. Scheer for, quote, things. That's what it says in the letter. I don't know what those things are, but I guess that's supposed to justify what took place in this case. This psychologist opines as well. Ms. Henry is probably the most difficult case I have worked with in my 30 years as a psychologist. Leaving an abusive relationship is really a first consideration. It's difficult. We know that, those that practice in the law and experience domestic violence. But look at this statement. To punish her would truly be punishing the victim. To a degree, she is recognized as a victim, but who is the real victim here? Caius. And that young man deserves justice in this world. This psychologist says, I believe Ms. Henry being jailed for some time now has most likely only confirmed her self-perception of being a failure. With due respect, any lengthy incarceration will only postpone her treatment and likely deepen the emotional scars she carries. So if this court is to accept and this court is to grant absolute leniency, is that the proper thing to do? The purpose of sentencing in the American jurisprudence is rehabilitation, for one, but number two, it is for punishment as well. So again, I'm asked to extend the leniency for this defendant for the loss of her son. Were I to simply release her today, what kind of a message does that send to this entire community, to the entire world, to any mother out there that would allow a situation like this to where her very own flesh and blood is killed by a third person? I would be telling every single parent that this happened to, go ahead, let your child get killed. And I am not willing to do that. Quite frankly, compassion and leniency has been granted this defendant in this case by virtue of the plea agreement that she was given. Because quite frankly, this is a horrific crime that deserves the full punishment of the law. I noticed something else in this case. Me and the legal community, it's a big day for me here in this courtroom. We celebrated here May 1. It's referred to as Law Day. We celebrate the rule of law on May 1. For every law day here and after, I will always think of Caius, because that is his date of death, May 1. Court finds found to be fair and proportionate sentence. It is for the protection of society. I have alluded to what the sentencing guidelines are in this case. I've considered them. They're no longer mandatory. They are simply advisory. Ms. Henry was placed on probation with this court, Monroe County Probation Department, Michigan Department of Corrections for the period of 5 years. She's ordered to pay a supervision fee in the amount of $600 paid with a rate of $10 per month, commencing on her release from jail. She is ordered to serve 270 days in the Monroe County Jail. She is given credit for 66 days served. She will serve 204 more days in the Monroe County Jail. That will leave 0 at the end of the probation term, even though I could sentence up to 365. If there's a violation of this probation, more than likely this court would order 24 months incarceration in state prison. I will not make that commitment at this point in time because things change, and if she comes before me on an alleged violation of probation, I will consider it. I'm opposing a fine in this case of $1,000. $1,000 cost, no restitution, crime victim's right fee $130, no attorney fee here, $68 state cost, comes out to $2,198. Retire that at the rate of $40 per month on your release from jail. While you're on probation with this court, Ms. Henry, you are to neither use nor possess any alcoholic beverages or controlled substances. You are not to go into bars or other places whose primary concern is the sale of alcoholic beverages. Submit to all alcohol and drug testing that your agent requires. You may not possess drug paraphernalia. You may not participate in any medical marijuana program. If your agent deems it appropriate, you should go to AA, NARC meetings or outpatient or residential substance abuse treatment. You shall do so, and you shall submit to all mental health treatment that your agent requires. Do not engage in any assaultive, abusive, threatening, intimidating behavior. You are not to have any contact with anybody who has a felony record. You may not change your residence address without your agent's permission first. You may not possess weapons or use anything as a weapon. You shall submit to all searches your agent requires. You shall have absolutely no contact with Roger Shear, nor shall you have any contact with Michael Henry except for divorce litigation. Upon your release from jail and while you're on probation, you shall obtain and maintain legitimate employment. You shall comply with DNA testing. I do not believe that has been done in this case yet. You will be subject to immediate arrest without warrant for any alleged violation of probation. You shall not be in a motor vehicle where there is alcohol or controlled substances. You must report any and all police contact and or personal protection orders within 24 hours of same. And while you are on probation with this court, you may not care for any child or children except your own. If you are entitled to any appellate review of your conviction or sentence with this court, you are entitled to have the assistance of an attorney help you perfect that appeal if you cannot afford to hire an attorney, and your request from the court will appoint one for your county expense. You've been given 4 to explain those appellate rights and those how to obtain the attorney. You have 42 days from today's date to submit that request to the county clerk. You seek to appeal for your conviction or sentence, the law may entitle you to. Have you received those forms, and did you ask to keep the receipt?
She has, Judge.
All right. I have been handed an order that DNA was ordered. I don't know if it was done. I don't remember if the report reflected that or not. But somebody just needs to follow up, make sure it was done.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
People versus Tyler Sunner.
Your Honor, could the prosecutor and I approach, or could you pass this so we could discuss it in chamber?
We'll take a recess. Let me do this.